What's up, people? This is Jeffrey Kaminsky, and today we're going to be talking about the best way to analyze your wrestling film. Now, not everyone's super big on watching film, but you still need to do it. Since I am a big film guy, I've learned what does and does not work, so I'm going to show you what I believe is the most efficient way to analyze your film. Now, the reason why film is so important is because it's an objective performance measure. No matter how something felt during the match, the film is going to show you exactly what went down and what happened. That means you can use it to improve and to notice your skill change over time, which might help improve your confidence. And most sports really value film. Like my football coaches in high school, they spend an entire Sunday away from their families just analyzing the film because there's that much to get out of it. But for some reason, wrestlers usually overlook it. And I think that's more just because we're never really taught how to do it. Since it is the off season, it is a perfect time to reflect on your matches from this past season so you can see what you need to work on so you can achieve your goals in March. Now, all of this applies more to match footage rather than this technique stuff we can find on YouTube. The first thing you need to do is make sure that your matches are actually getting recorded. You don't want to have to end up searching and digging on YouTube or Flow or Facebook or some school's website just to try to find your old matches. If your team has a recording app like MatBoss, your job is a lot easier. All you need to do is make sure that the person with the iPad is actually in your corner before the match starts. But sometimes you're going to end up having to give your phone to a parent or teammate to make sure that your match ends up getting recorded. You got to tell them when your match is and how you want it recorded, whether you want it in portrait or landscape mode, if you want them to stop between whistle blows, or if you want them to film the end when your hand gets raised. Because if you don't, you have no right to get mad when they do something stupid. As far as which matches you should be watching, ideally you should be analyzing a match against a similarly skilled opponent, especially if you can find a spot in the match where your bread and butter moves are stopped. If you can find a way to fix those problems, you're going to get instant improvement. You probably should not be bothered analyzing a match where you dominate a JV freshman. Other than a boost to your confidence, what are you really going to be getting out of that? Similarly, you probably shouldn't bother analyzing a match where you get tech pinned by a 4-time state champ. The next thing you need to do is find yourself a notebook. This is going to force you to be actively engaged in the film, and you're actually going to remember what you learned, and you can go back to it. This is the difference between sitting in the back of the class playing Clash Royale and sitting in the front row taking notes and asking questions. So everyone has a different system for how they run their notebook. This is what I like to do and what works for me. I always start with my title. That's usually who's wrestling, at what tournament, as well as a date. That way, if I find a page from 3 years ago, I can understand why I didn't see this particular thing that I see now because I'm a better wrestler. For my comments, I do it with a circle and I put a timestamp next to it so I know when in the video it's referring to. And if I come back to this page like a year from now, I can just flip to that right away instead of having to search through the whole video. And if I come across something that I don't understand and have a question about, I'll put a checkbox right next to it as well as some room to write a response so I can go talk to a coach and put my answer to my question right there. As far as what you should actually be recording and writing down, I used to be very neurotic about watching film. I would notice everything to down to the last minute detail. Hell, I'd even notice if the dude changed his shoelaces from red to blue. But let me tell you something. If you highlight everything, you really highlight nothing. So now that I'm a much older and wiser man, I've realized that it's better to just watch the match, wait for something interesting to happen. That way, when you actually do write something down, you'll be able to see it. And you should be looking for habits, because even Jordan Burroughs is going to make a mistake every now and then in reach of his lead leg hand. Does not mean he's going to do it again. A good rule of thumb is that once is a coincidence and twice is a trend. So if you see something happening over and over again, it's probably going to happen again. And after you find something interesting that you want to write down, like a takedown or something, you got to see like how that move happened technically, but you also have to understand what led to that happening. You might have to go back 5 or 10 seconds to see like what setups or movement around the mat led to this position even being open. And then you can just rewatch it over and over again with like just moving back or putting on slow-mo or something like that just to analyze it further. At some point, you're probably going to end up watching opponent footage. And this is where you have to be really careful because you have to understand that the opponent you're watching on film is not the current version of that athlete. They've probably watched that footage 3 times and have adapted and changed and improved from it. And besides, I mean, when you're wrestling a different person, you're going to wrestle them a little bit differently. And the same goes true when you wrestle somebody the next time you see them. So you should not be putting too much stock in what you're seeing on film being what's going to happen the next time you see that person on the mat. And besides all that stuff, you should be focusing on hitting your moves anyway. You just have to keep in the back of your mind that if we get in this certain position, but this guy is probably going to try this. Which means that sometimes you might have to develop a game plan that keeps you in your strong positions and him out of his strong positions. The next thing that you need to do is to watch film with other people. because they're going to see things differently than you do, and they might point out things that you didn't even think about and offer insight that you never could have gotten by yourself. This is why it's important to go talk to your coaches and watch film with other teammates. And finally, the last thing you need to do is to watch more film, because analyzing film is a skill, and to get better at it, you have to put more time into it. This means you can watch more of your own footage, or you can go on YouTube and just watch more college wrestling. I mean, I used to watch a match every single day at lunch. And with all of that, that is the end of the video. So if you learned anything today, please subscribe and like and click the notification bell. And if you have any other tips for watching film, make sure to leave those down below. I'll see you next time.